I'm going to start with a reflection as our friends come in. And as they come and get seats, don't be afraid to sit right in the front. But there's more hidden around as we attempt to stay in a circle together. For those who were here last week, we were going to do centering prayer before I realized that we are in Losar. If you don't know what Losar is, it is the Tibetan Buddhist New Year. It's an extremely auspicious time to teach meditation and to and have a little cultural dialogue. I figured I would start us with some of that, and I'll explain why in a minute. But we like to start each time with some kind of a prayer or a reflection, something you can take home with you as a kind of meditation. There's more seats here around the edges. You can kind of find your way through. But this is from Pema Chodron, a reflection. It is only when we begin to relax with ourselves that meditation becomes a transformative process. Only when we relate with ourselves without moralizing, without harshness, without deception, can we let go of harmful patterns. The key is to be here, fully connected with this moment, paying attention to the details of ordinary life. By taking care of ordinary things, our pots and pans, our clothing, our teeth, we can rejoice in them. When we scrub a vegetable or brush our hair, we are expressing appreciation, friendship towards ourselves and towards the living quality that is found in everything. This combination of mindfulness and appreciation connects us fully with reality and brings us joy. When we extend attention and appreciation towards our environment and other people, our experience of joy gets bigger. Welcome. This is practicing the presence of God. As I said before, we were going to start with centering prayer meditation. But centering prayer is makes a lot more sense when you start with classic meditation. And so we're going to do that in honor of Losar today. Raise your hand if you have ever practiced any kind of Buddhist meditation before. Okay, some, not all. That's perfect. I found my way to it because as I shared last week, didn't want to hear about God from someone else. I didn't want to experience someone's theories. I wanted my own direct experience. And so in meditation, it is from a different culture, but centering prayer from Keating and others borrows from it extensively because it's a kind of spiritual technology. It's a simple practice to stop your discursive thinking for a while, to let go of all those thoughts that chatter, and simply try to behold the logos in the room that you are in. So in a moment, we'll teach you, it takes one of those things, a few minutes to learn and then a lifetime to keep working at. But first I want to name, for if you weren't here last week, people are coming and placing things on the altar that are sacred to them. I kept it pretty broad. What does it mean that something is sacred? Well, for a lot of us, it may not be the thing itself. It's probably something that it reminds us of or points it towards. In Christian contemplative circles, there's a lot of different ways of talking about that. But for us, we're keeping it pretty light. It's whatever evokes that numinous quality of the sacred for you. And later on today, as we practice, if you'd like to share what you brought and why it has meaning for you, we'll all get a better idea. But the idea is we are pointing to something beyond ourselves that is also in this room. And so this is our construction of a shared altar to practice God's presence together. And every week, as you come in, little housekeeping, you can come and put something up there. If we ever outgrow this beautiful wooden table, we'll find more beautiful wooden tables. But for now, it is our personal invitation to welcome the Spirit into this room. Spirit cannot be perceived secondhand. It's only something you can see for yourself. So if you feel moved next week or the week after, what evokes that for you? What symbol, what object? Could be anything. So I'll get to the technicalities of meditation if you've never done it in a minute. But before we do that, let's just have a few minutes of silence together to transition from getting here to being here. And once you've wrestled yourself out a little bit, shaken it off, let us invite the sacred into this room. However you understand that. Not everyone believes the way I believe with the G-O-D word and all that. But whatever that word is or concept for ultimate reality, devotion cannot happen abstractly. The relationship with the direct experience can't happen abstractly. So find what that is for you. And in this moment of silence, let's invite this room as a sacred one.
Buddhist meditation is not very different from the way they instructed the early hesychastic tradition. Goes out of the desert fathers and mothers, goes down to the Orthodox world. At some point, we'll talk all about it. But the history is less interesting and exciting than the actual practice. So there's a couple things. Very, very simple. It starts with posture, because there is a subtle relationship between your body and your breath and your thinking. And what we're trying to do is create little zones of sanity and sobriety amongst the constant chatter of everything, right? So how do we just behold this room we're in? And then something happens after that too, but we'll just start there. So one of the first things they say, this is Meditation 101, is your head up straight. Doesn't mean rigid. Shoulders should be relaxed. The phrase in Tibetan is erect. It's like up, but not tight. Your should be, you can sit on lotus if you want to. I cannot. And even half lotus as I get older is difficult. So a chair is fine. But ideally, both feet square on the ground. You know your body. And so the idea is not to be uncomfortable. It's also not to be too relaxed, right? There's literally, in the early meditation scriptures teachings, they liken it to a guitar string. If it's too tight, it'll snap. If it's not tight enough, it'll just do nothing. If it's just right, it'll sort of sing out. And so these are subtle qualities of the human mind and body. And at the beginning, you may not know the difference, but over time you will, as time goes on. So to the best of your ability, shoulders relaxed, head up, and on your chair as you are able, feet square as you're able. One teacher said, this is now 99% of meditation you have learned. I cannot emphasize enough. There's something about poise, posture. You are the new temple. You are the place that receives spirit or refracts it into a chatter of thinking. So first is posture. They also say to keep your eyes open. This is not the kind of practice where you shut your eyes. We are not avoiding this world. We are becoming more here. We normally avoid the world by looking only at certain things and going on and on and on. This, eyes open. Normally, if you don't have people in a circle in front of you, you'd say about 1 meter on the ground ahead of you. Mouth slightly open, they say. Again, find what's right for you. What you do with your body and hands will affect your mind. So what do you do with your hands? Well, there's a lot of things you could do. And we're going to come back to that again and again and again. But the basic posture looks like this. It's one hand down and the other hand in it, and a little circle like this. This is called a mudra. It just means hand gesture. If you had a sadistic Tibetan teacher who made you learn all of them, you want to show them off, but you don't, it's okay. And usually it's down in your lap, a little circle. You don't have to do it, but do something so that your hands are comfortable and settled. This is a mudra that's supposed to evoke wholeness and fullness. You could put your hands down on your knees like this, if you want to. Or you could put them up, side down, like this. Open palm on your, either one. Find what feels comfortable. Later on, if you're having a hard time focusing, staying awake, a subtle movement of your body could change everything. So we'll come back to that. But for now, whatever feels comfortable to kind of get your body out of your way, okay? Really basic posture, poise, a room that's dedicated for it, right? A little bit of space and time that you've set aside. Very simple. All of this is very subtle. And it may not look like anything to our minds that are like, but that's where it starts. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of these subtle things, right? This is a subtle practice. We're getting a taste for a different kind of experience. Once you've done that, the rest is pretty straightforward. And what you're going to do is this. And it's going to go great the first time. In through your mouth, in through your nose, you breathe. Out through your mouth is one. One cycle of in and out. I'll do it again. I'll count a couple. One. Two. Three. Okay. Today we are counting to 4. Let's see if we can do it. You're going to count to 4 cycles of breath, and then you're going to start over. Go back to 1, 2, 3, 4. That simple. Your eyes find the place where they want to rest and keep them there to the best of your ability. You have the rest of your life to relax and sprawl out. All that's great too. I love a sprawl. But for this moment, we're going to try to keep it fixed maybe on one of the candles, maybe on a part of the floor, back of someone's head is fine. Doesn't matter how fast you breathe or how quick or slow, but if you breathe slower, your mind will be slower. It'll slow your thoughts down. Posture, counting to 4 with your breath, then start over. You got that so far? Okay, now here's the catch. It won't work. Somewhere on your way to 4, maybe the first time, maybe the second time, you'll start thinking about dinner, right? Or I'm not really good at meditation, right? Or whatever, right? Someone who cut you off in traffic or something, right? At some point, you will all realize that you are not counting. And that does not make you bad at it, it makes you a human. The practice is designed for you to recognize that you can't do it for that long. At some point you stop. You just like, and you don't even know that it's happened. You just like, next thing you know, yeah, okay, all right. When that happens, the meditation instructions are, be gentle and forgiving with yourself and start over. Whenever you realized you're somewhere in Kentucky, the practice of meditation is realizing you're not doing it and gently coming back to 4, to 1, 2, 3. That's meditation, right? It's not how long you can do it. It's not how macho you can sit in a room and be deprived of basic human warmth and sustenance in a cave, although that's great too. It's gently coming back to it. If we were to do this for half an hour, which we're not going to do, and you have spent 28 minutes thinking about laundry, but brought it back at the end, you are a successful meditator. Okay? Best to just try it. Any questions about the basic mechanics of it before we jump in? All right. So we're going to do something crazy and do this for over 5 minutes. I'm not going to tell you how long. And just see what comes up. As we go deeper in meditation, it gets specific. When this happens, then you do this. When that happens, you do this. So we're going to name, like, what are the barriers? What comes up for each of us? It'll be something. Me too. But for now, just gently keep coming back to that counting. Remember to keep your posture. And let's see what we discover together in this room. Anyone want to share what that experience was like for you? Things you didn't expect, things you did?
My brain feels clear.
Your brain feels clearer. Okay, I can also bring this to you.
I do better with my eyes closed. And I kept them open, but
It's harder.
yes.
Yeah.
It's really harder when your friends are sitting across the circle.
Oh my gosh. It's like an ad against having friends. I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. Anything else? Liz?
I had trouble keeping track of the sets. I could do the counting for the breath, but I noticed as time went on that I wasn't tracking the sets at all.
Just tracking the what?
Sets.
Well,
Sets.
the sets. Got it. I get you. And I should say, this is counterintuitive. We tend to look at a room and we are all looking at a different room. We're tracking those details that matter to my story and to my sense of self and what I think matters. And same with every conversation in person. So this is sort of allowing us to open up some of that. And it's almost, it can happen by accident sometimes. In grief, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you get a shock but I'll just name that in meditation, we're trying to create little zones of stillness of thinking, or we're not thinking, and you're still conscious, but not having, I am Michael, I am going to see the doctor. That goes, and as you create these little zones, sometimes the whole system can just drop. And I bet you all have experienced that on your own. There's times in your life where all of a sudden your thoughts just go and you're like, there's a lot of words for it that we don't have English translations for. But other things, were you sleepy? Were you jittery? What else came up that, Aaron?
Initially, just getting into it was hard. And then I had a hard time getting past the pain and the stiffness in my body that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
I just had to get past that before I could get down to a point where I could get past that. And that surprised me. And
Yeah.
I fell asleep a few times.
Yeah, I hear you, totally. I'm a big meditation sleeper. That's my big, some people don't have that. I do. I've always had it. I'll come back to pain in a second because that's a big one to talk about. But in sleepiness, here's a simple thing. If you've got your thoughts at some spot like that candle, that's where mine was, and you're like, keep nodding, try looking up. Just look higher. It doesn't have to be all the way up, but just like aim higher until you have an easier time. Conversely, some people, not me, can never land. And so they say, look down more, right? Ground yourselves more. In a similar way, sometimes if you do it for longer, we're not doing it very long yet. It's good, but it's different things happen over time. Some people have bursts of emotion. Something feels threatening. I can't stay in this room, right? Or something, crying, or some people just feel dead and dry and like no emotion. The thing where you put your hands down on your knees, right? And if my hand is facing down, this is the harder part of my arm, the defensive part. If I'm having hard emotion and feel unsafe, I do a mudra like that. Right? They call it the masculine part in Tibetan, but it just means that sort of the armored part. And if I'm feeling like, I'm sitting here, I'm doing the things, but nothing's happening, you open up. You put the soft part and you become more receptive. And subtly over time, it's like, allows me to be in the room. Those are broad adjustments. There's a lot of other versions of it. Anna, were you trying to?
Well, I was just going to comment for myself, and that
Yeah.
is the team really helped me because my brain first popped to all the things that happened to me today. And I went, no. And that really helped me.
Totally. What was the first word you used? I'm a little deaf these days.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Things popped out of my head.
Right. Yeah.
And then I said, no, I'll go back to counting, and the counting really helped because I had so much going on today. I went, no, count.
Right. Yeah.
And it really helped.
That gentleness with yourself. Again, like Pema Chodron, no judgment. I said this with parish care friends. If you're in parish care, who's in parish? Okay. I said this earlier today because of the Pema Chodron quote we used. Our lives are filled with mundane, silly things, right? Even in profound moments, it's a certain jacket, it's a certain box of Kleenex, or. And so in meditation, we don't live like that. We live up in the clouds very often, even if it's not good. It's Gnostic, it's abstract. And so this is trying to just bring you into the room where God really is, where the Spirit, whatever you want to call that, it's the little small things and cherishing and nourishing creation. But back to those thoughts, Anna, one of the classics, I'm staying with the Buddhist Losar thing for the moment. One of the classic things they say is your mind is like a train station. It's got trains going every direction, and that's fine. And you won't stop it, right? We are not here to stop your thinking. You can't really stop it. It'll keep going, but the analogy they use is that you're in a train station, you've got a train running to Rajpur, one to Dharamsala, wherever it is that Indian trains go, and or to lunch next week, or my boss, whatever the things are, and that's fine, but don't get on the train if you can. Right? You see them thoughts coming. You're like, okay, there's that train. I could go all the way right now. But here I am. I drove here. I parked. I'm being quiet. I might as well just be here. Right? Or you get on the train and you go. I am a victim. Should be pitied because of the way my mother treated me, or whatever it is that all of us have these things that come up, right? I'm on the train. What if I dismantled that whole thing? And I'm not saying it'll be there. Mom or whatever it is will be there later. It's okay. But you're just allowing yourself to put it down for a moment and come back to the candle. It's not repressing. It's not pushing it away. Whatever the thoughts are, they're okay. Just let them be. They'll keep doing it, but just, I get to be here. I get to vacation. This is not, and as soon as meditation starts to become something where it's like, I should do it, you're now possessed by the I should do something demon, right? Which runs my life, honestly. Runs my outlook, runs everything. But then you come and practice, like, I get to just behold this room with my friends' faces. Liz is still going to be there. I'll come back. Anything else before we try again? Yeah.
I was much more able to relax into it when I imagined myself in a wild flower field.
Yeah.
I had to have, the birds on my feet, something.
Totally.
That's the only. That was the only thing. It wasn't just counting and doing what I'm supposed to do.
Totally. Well, and I'll just say, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing I might throw out, because I'll do that too, we all probably have a version of the places we want to be. When there are places that are...
It's not where I want to be.
Okay, but I'm not there now. I'm not there now. And so there's a tendency for all of us to reject certain experiences and to crave others, right? All of us. Like, I don't want to, let me tell you, right? Whatever it is. The Ferrari would be a little bit better than the CRV I've got, whatever it is, right? Or Sequoia. I'd rather be in Sequoia National Park than in Seattle right now, right? So that thought says, this is not very good. And so I suffer. And my thought, Michaelness, the construct Michael, is filled with those little turns, right? I would rather do this and I'd rather do that. I like this pizza, I don't like that, whatever. And that's fine. And there's times in our lives, go to the forest, I'm all for it. But what's a little bit unique about meditation, in this context that we're saying today, is that we're kind of non-judging where we are. We're allowing for the possibility that there's really nothing wrong with this room right here. My body feels that there is, to be clear. But I'm allowing the practice that it's okay to just be here. And the thought that says, oh, I'd rather be in Sequoia, or gosh, after this I gotta write a thing for the church, or whatever it is for you, it's fine to just put it down and just practice. Now, it's not easy, and so I get it. And there's times where you just need to go to the forest. So don't let me stop you, honestly. But at some point, challenge yourselves to put those things down and allow for a little gap in all the preferences. That make sense? Easier said than, right? I know it's not, yeah. Yeah, and then I'll come around the clock.
I found I could count to on going elsewhere to say, go back and start this one again, get on that track. I could just count. My mind can still be wandering.
Yeah, right. Your mind can still be wandering. Okay, we'll get to that. That's great. Totally. People say your mind can't do more than one thing at once. You ever heard that? Baloney. I can do 30. But I can't do them well, right? So I wanted to start as simple. So when your mind's doing that, like I'm counting just fine and I'm still in Jupiter or whatever it is, totally, I'm right there with you. I spent a lot of my life meditating in that way. Then you can layer on some things. The first thing to layer on is the sensation of breathing. You breathe basically automatically, right? It's sort of, as body functions go, it's right in between automatic and not automatic, okay? But there's a whole sensual world, senses of breathing. It's like, it's sharp in my nose, fills my chest, like I can feel it, the hair on my nose, right? All the stuff, the filters, the chest, I can feel it. My diaphragm out. So add on all those subtle little textures of breathing. And when I started, I was young, and believe me, I was not interested in the subtle textures of breathing, right? I want enlightenment, right? Or whatever. I want to use the force. I'd be content for a light, to meditate something. But I don't want to just texture, savor breathing. But that's where you start. So try to get more into that moment. Later on, we could layer on other things, like the feeling of my feet on the ground, the feeling of my shirt, right? We could start to add senses on. But sometimes just that breath, that you can always come back to that island of breathing. Next week, we're going to mix some of this with, Thich Nhat Hanh will help us mix it with, Jesus does this in a lot of ways that only meditators can see, I think. A lot of subtleties. But for now, add in breathing. There was another, Virginia, and then.
Talk to us about the difference between breathing out through your mouth and breathing out through your nose.
Don't have to do it, but technically in the classic Buddhist meditation, they say it that way, and the reason they say why is partially a subtle nervous system issue, but some of it is that the hairs in your nose that we all have, unless you trim them, are supposed to filter things out, filter out dust particles and things. So in the, Vedic world, they thought that was the correct way to breathe, right? Your whole system regulates when you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And some people have certain issues with their body where that's not comfortable. I have a deviated septum. You know what that is? All right. Things. We all have things. And so these are the basics. We don't have to treat them like, we're not fundamentalists here, but it's good to know because it might, it might give you something you didn't know was there. 1 second, let me go back here.
I just noticed that I hadn't kind of all, it's been a while since I've done it, I need to do this, and so, just kind of more grounded and then just more open. I just kind of
Say that last part again.
grounded and more open.
You felt that way?
And
Yeah.
And interestingly too, I kept wanting to count to 5 rather than 4. I don't know.
It's fine. It's fine. Actually, you know, 4 comes out of the Zen tradition, and it's closer to the original Pali text. My teacher was 21. That was what the Tibetans did in the Sakyapa tradition. So I was doing a lot of, and it was a blue flower. You had to have a blue flower, you know. So, you know, you can count to 5. I'm not gonna, but just to keep it simple, you know. I think in the beginning, it's like a lot of these things are training wheels that eventually you'll get, they call it the smell or taste of Dharma, but just the sense of practice. You'll get a sense of it. 1 second. And then the training wheels can go a little bit. But in the beginning, and I've been doing this for 30 years, I come back to a lot of those things because I am wild in my mind, you know what I mean? And so I kind of shift around a little bit. Liz, I know you had your hand up, but me just go to someone who hasn't talked yet, and then I'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to the, you know, what you're looking at thing.
Yeah.
Because kind of like Kathy, I'm happy with my eyes closed, you know,
Sure.
and not falling asleep, but with them closed.
Yeah.
But I did it with my eyes open, and I started kind of focusing on Virginia's little white diamond on her heel there on her sock.
Nice. Yeah, Virginia.
But then, you know, at some point, I'm very relaxed, but it's almost like I begin to get kind of tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
It's like I have to move my eyes so that, and I'm not falling asleep, but
Totally.
something's happening.
But they start to
So
blur.
I move up to Michael's little, what sculpture is this? Is that a bird? Is that yours, Michael?
Sorry?
Yeah. Yes, I move up to this, I'm focusing on this, and I'm doing better on that than on your sock. But it's beginning to take all these weird sort of things. In other words,
It warps.
it warps. And so
Yeah.
I'm very relaxed, but in both cases, my vision sort of warps. So what do you do about that?
Totally. Different things at different times. Let me go back to eyes closed first. I get it. And it's the same thing. It's like the trees. I'm not against doing it with your eyes closed. A lot of people do. But I just throw it out if there's a reason why the classic one works. And I don't always do it either. I meditate with my eyes closed plenty. Because you're trying to embrace the room that you're in. Now, you're right. Your mind totally, because there's not a static image. Your brain is always trying to adjust it. Some of that you have to find your way through because it'll blur. And there's a quality, it's not Cordillera, it's like fine tuning is the word that they use. You kind of have to adjust a little bit, but don't adjust too much because the danger is that once you start doing this, like if we're lucky tonight, you'll enjoy this at some point, right? You'll get a little take like, oh, okay, I get it. I get to not be me. I get to just be in this room in all its fullness, right? But then your brain will stop you from doing this. It will do everything in its power to kick you out. And that will be physical pain. It might be seemingly external accidents. There are no external anything. It'll just happen. The mind is never satisfied. It doesn't want you to do this. We are going to protect the Michael ship or the whatever, right? The structure. So I'm not saying be rigid. You could kind of play around and move. I've done it plenty, but play with it a little bit. There's some fine tuning there. And you're right, eventually it just all blurs out. Take a breath, close your eyes, and just then reset every once in a while. Some of it you got to feel it out in your own body. People's eyes and breaths are really different, and I've learned by watching someone teach, it can be really different for different people. I think Liz, right? And then I'll come back to Mary.
I have the mic, please.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you are aware of diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
That's something that's been advised to me by more than one medical professional.
Yeah.
And it's a different form of breathing altogether.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I wonder if you have anything to say about it.
You know, from a meditative, so I learned it as a singer, right? You singers learn how to breathe from your diaphragm. But in this context, it depends on how you're sitting. Classic diaphragmatic breathing, right? So if that's comfortable for you, do it, I would say. Depending on your posture and your body, though, that can clench and do different things at different, like classic diaphragmatic breathing. So I'm hesitant to, technically, you should always be breathing into your diaphragm, right? But that's subtlety, and if you haven't had that experience, it's subtle, right? So I would say do it. But if you don't know what we're talking about, I don't want to take us too far down there because I think it might take us off. Right, caller? Yeah.
What I noticed was from the moment that I walked in this room, I felt really safe. And I thought about it, why do I feel so safe? Initially, I think because I look around the room and I know probably 75% of people in the room, and I feel really good about them. I feel they're my friends, I trust them. And of course I know the room, it's my church. And so savoring this wonderful sense of safety that I feel now, I try to imagine myself meditating in a different environment, one perhaps that I don't feel quite the same amount of safety.
Yeah. This is easier, theoretically. And it's also, we talked about this last time, it's also easier with other people around. There's something resonant about having humans with you. It's easier. They ground you, they hold you in. Before we close today, we'll talk about what it's like to start a practice at home. There are a few things you can layer on that can help you at home. But the best thing you can do is find a community of people to do it regularly with, and then grow that over time. Humans need each other. There was someone else that No? Good. All right. Sometimes crazy things happen when you really are just calm and time your mind. One of the Tibetan words, not classic Indian, but Tibetan phrases for me is timing your mind to nature, which means that what they would call ultimate reality, the view of ultimate reality, Kordeyerme in Tibetan, is happening all the time. It's right here. It's doing it now. This is they would say, this is God revealing itself to you right now, and you're missing it. So on some level, the early desert fathers and mothers said something very similar, that this is creation and it's God's primary text. And all that other stuff are just human knockoff, cheap, right? But the degree to which we slow down our thoughts and put it in context with the air and this room, and if nothing else, for starters, my breath. Keep it simple. Let's try it again, and we'll see what we find. Anyone have a piece they want to share or something they want to add to the group or question? Oh, sorry, my blind spot.
Yeah, so second time was easier. I still have trouble getting to form, but and I figured out how to breathe through my nose without closing my mouth. And I felt like I could actually, the first time I felt like I wasn't getting enough air. The second time I got lots of air. And then it felt like some of the tension in my shoulders was starting to go.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
I could change sort of the pace of it all because I use a very similar breathing to fall asleep when I'm having trouble falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Breathing in, holding, and then a long exhale. So kind of needed to change it up. It's sleepy.
That's great. I love that. And that's a great, for all of us, to experiment a little bit for your body. We all have a mind and emotions that are tied into certain patterns of posture, breath, right? And something that I'm saying as the basics might not work. So you kind of have to find your way a little bit. Some of this is like by scent, right? But that's great. You kind of found something that worked. And it can change over time. It can kind of, your body is always moving, your life is always in circumstance, but hopefully with friends and with teachers, if you do get a glimpse of it, you start like, oh, okay, that's what I'm trying to get. Ovens Collective.
So I switched some things up. I put my hands out instead of in the circle. And
Yeah.
I had moments where I was very aware of the warmth. Like I felt increased warmth in my hands in that position, and also almost a tingly kind of feeling in that position, which was nice. And then I'm very much a word person, and so in my exhales this time, I used my star word. So when I counted it and I said the star word, and that actually helped me stay more present. My star word is dwell, so that seems particularly important.
That's good.
So I tried that. So that felt more satisfying.
Great. When we get to centering prayer proper, it's this on some level, but there's some key differences of the way we think and structure centering prayer. It does involve very often a word. And so I won't get there yet, but that's great. You're instinctively doing it, and no problem with doing that now. That's fantastic. David?
I was just going to say, I've been surprised at how comfortable I felt doing this position and resting my hands there. I haven't done this before. I usually am quite a restless person. So.
Yeah. This stance, well, I don't want to go on forever because I could, but there's something about the posture that there's a lot written about how monks are supposed to hold their body. And they take seriously. This is why I first went this direction, that it's a temple for the spirit, and you find these ways of maneuvering. Not that they're better than other things, but they're a container. And it's in some Buddhist texts and early Christian texts, especially in the Orthodox world, the posture alone, someone sees it and like, what's going on with that person? I want what they've got. Right? There's a certain dignity of bearing and humility simultaneously. Right? We don't always pair dignity with humility, groundedness with insightfulness. So there's a whole thing there, I think. And so finding how your body holds, it may not be just like what David's doing, but find what that is able to be for you. I know I saw another, and I'm just, Michael.
Well, at first I was in a lot of pain. I sort of expected it because I took aspirins before I came. But the back, just even touching the back of the chair was enormously painful, so I had to move away from the back of the chair. So it that was the whole first part. So there wasn't a lot of other distractions, just that.
That'll do it. Yeah.
That was helpful, yes.
Yeah.
But then I guess it was sort of, I mean, I'm not feeling it now, so it was just for that period of time. And then other distractions started to come in, higher level ones. I did try to move my position down. And that didn't seem to help. I was surprised.
Okay. It's interesting. And a lot of this, there are 1,000 teachings on meditation that you're not meant to know, because it's like a medicine cabinet. You don't need all of them. Your body needs a few, and it'll need different ones over time. So the whole point of having a meditation teacher or community is that as things come up for you that are unique to your body, there are fine tunings and things and different practices that you can apply to help get through physical pain, not get through, suppress, but work with emotional realities, different things. And so hopefully you have someone skilled to kind of, okay, try this, take this home. And that's what your whole life as a meditator is. If you start really getting into it, is you come back after trying it on your own. It's like, I'm stuck. This doesn't work. I hate it. I want to kill this. Whatever it is that comes up for you. And then someone helps you kind of kindly, gently apply some things, but nothing at all wrong with kind of echolocating yourself and figuring out what works for me. Okay, I can't have my back. I've got all those things that are specific to my body. That's great. Yeah.
I started with alternate nostril breathing, which I use. I take a dental yoga class and we do that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to concentrate. I mean, so I wasn't going anywhere else.
You were right there. That's good. You got to show me how, because of my nose thing, I can't always do that.
I have a deviated septum, and this helps clear both nostrils.
All right. I'm in an appointment with you. And that reminds me, some of you might be good meditators and should come talk to me so that you can help others. If this is a practice you start to develop, and again, contemplative practice, this is like a good foundation. A lot of things will be some version of quiet and getting into these subtleties. If you're having a hard time, every week we'll have a chance to talk, but you can also email me or call, and we could set time. And this is what we're doing together. When Bob's phone goes off, right? I loved that. No. I loved that. I shared this last week. I learned how to meditate in New York City. You never get silence. You get other noises. And those are just as much thoughts as the ones that are in your head, right? And those are it's another train. And I'm the guy whose phone, I never turn it off, so it's like it's the Dalai Lama is here, and here I am with my, and that's great. Turn your phones off, or silence, but it's okay. And there'll be 1,000 sounds, like the buzzing of the system or whatever. The idea is not to externally control your environment. That is insanity. So this is the opposite of insanity, right? We can never, there's a famous Buddhist thing, you've all heard it, it gets watered down into different places. Like, oh, my feet hurt, I wish there was leather on the ground, it was soft. I'll cover the world with leather, right? That's the insanity piece, not trying to make things silent every once in a while. But you can't, it'll kill the animals and the trees, and right? But what if I put leather on my shoes and my feet and everywhere I stand? So there's a mixture there. But when those things come up, that's part of my psychic field too, and I don't have to hold on to it. Right? I can just let it go.
And I'll bet that was harder for Bob than anybody else.
Oh, maybe. Maybe Bob's zened out. Maybe not. I don't know. But when I'm that person, it's really hard. Right? I'm like, woo! I get up and I dance, and I know. It's like Liz, and then Nif.
Still remain stuck with the counting process. Things did not go as well for me this time because I got all caught up in the counting.
Mm-hmm.
And line 4, line 5. Oh, wait, I haven't started that set.
Yeah.
I gave up. I just
Yeah.
breathed, following
Great.
the pattern, trusted that my body knew where 4 was. And then I kept going, it was okay.
Yeah.
I just absolutely was going crazy. Where am I? Which set am I on? Oh no, I think
I know.
last time.
Is this a Christian church? Like, what's going on here? I hear it. I'm glad you shared that, because if you're going through it, somebody else is too. And, I had a teacher, my teacher, a student came and was having something similar, and we were counted at 21. And my sister's like, it's okay. If you have to gently bring it back, it just one, so it's okay. These are constructs that are meant to pull us out of our patterns, right? And so sometimes it's okay to push yourself, because the idea is you're coming up against some resistance, and it's okay to push a little, and only you can know what's appropriate in that moment. The reverse of pushing is you can't make an enemy out of practice, right? Like, we are Christian. I mean, I speak for yourself. I am Christian. I come from a moralizing culture. Can you rephrase that in terms of a moral dilemma? Like, I need it to be good or bad, right? That's the way I was raised. And I'm not that way anymore. But to some degree, like, I need to be on the good side, which means, like, this is sort of something else, right? We're just beholding. And so it's okay to do it a little bit differently. Nif.
A lot of my meditative practice is centered on prayer, and my brain was fighting with the counting a lot.
Yeah.
Going, well, where's God in this?
Yeah, sure.
I had to hit on in everything before my brain would let me move on and count to 4.
Totally. Yeah. That's great. Let me address that first, because, what are we doing? Where's God in this? God is everywhere. And so this is a technology, right? Buddhists don't pray to Buddha, they do pray to God. There's a lot of things that people have no idea about Buddhism. Well, that's another topic for another time. But in this context, it's a technology we're using, that Keating uses as the basic centering prayer, to just stop your thinking for a minute and to just be in a room. And theologically, I am a devout person, and it's not even subtle. It's like I'm old-fashioned devout. But I believe that the Logos animates all things just the way we're told, and that it's here in the room, right? The problem is I talk about God like incessantly, and I'm never creating, we talked about this last week a little bit, that I'm never creating space to just hear and be and allow. It's like it's my show, stream. And I've defined everything. Right? I've defined the terms of first of all, God is named God, right? Which is suspect. All my ideas about the grounded being are probably not right. So is it good or bad? So we get into that stuff. The idea is we're cultivating space to not be just thinking about it. We're these little zones of just beholding creation as it is, from the inside to the outside. And as you grow and practice, if it's something that you get a taste for, and I find this relaxing, I'll do a little more, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And that may not be what everyone wants to do, but even if we just did this forever, which we won't, you eventually get to a place where all your definitions can just drop. And all of a sudden you start realizing things that you didn't think were definitions, like things that you didn't think of as intellectual constructs maybe are, like time and space, right? We think, oh, that's hard reality. Point to it. Ask a quantum physicist how real it is.
Yeah.
It's suspect, right? And for meditators, that's a visceral experience. We're not there right now. We're just kind of making friends with being quiet. And allowing God to be in the room, right? And just behold that. When we get to centering prayer, we'll still be doing that to some degree. We'll have these words where we invite God relationally into this practice in a different way. But it comes down to, can I suspend little zones of me talking at reality, me talking at God, and just allow for there might be naturally occurring things. There might be peace in there, right? Meditators have all sorts of things that they think happens when you can drop all those definitions. And that gets pretty theological pretty fast when you start talking about it. I didn't want to get there too much today, but we will, because you'll start experiencing different things. But it goes and goes. We could be here for 1,000 years and still just be getting into it. And you and I probably will be, actually, in this room. Let's do one more, and then I want to do some things before we close, too. Was there something over here? Anna, yeah.
I was just going to say this. I also experienced the problem with the counting, and I just decided I let it go. I just like, am I on 2 or 3? I don't care. I just picked a number. And I'm surprised how well it actually worked for me. You know, my father loves numbers, but I'm not a huge fan. So I let it go of him. It worked. But yes, I experienced it.
Thank you. I was going to do a couple of different things that we don't quite have time for, and I want to always honor our time, beginning, middle, and end. Next week, we'll go a little bit deeper into this. We'll talk a little bit more about what makes this a theological practice as well, but we'll share more about how might you do a practice at home. I don't want to go too far into that yet, because it's a tricky thing to leave everyone and start, and other things arise. But I'll just say as a sneak peek, if something about this connected, experiment with it. Keep it going. But without naming it, I kind of did something that is, there's always 3 parts of practice, both for Buddhists and it's kind of culture-wide. And we did it, I do it all the time in a Christian context. You start with a prayer of dedication of some kind, God. And from your heart, you name some prayer. Then you do the practice. And then when you're done, you dedicate that practice to whatever, to God, to however you name that. We'll go into depth about how to structure your time at home and then an altar as well. Is this the seat of the divine in the universe? No. But we are sensual beings, right? And there's something about having dedicated room, dedicated space, dedicated focus to kind of sanctify a moment, right? And we'll get into that more too as we meditate more and practice a little bit more together. We'll start with this great Orthodox prayer. I think we'll do that next week. It's so beautiful. People brought things, and we don't have that much time, but maybe we have room for 2. And each week, we will eventually get to the place where I am talking less and we're talking hopefully more to each other. But does anyone want to share what they brought and why it has significance to them? And we'll always make that space in these gatherings. Yeah.
So are we supposed to grab the item, or?
You can if you want, but you don't have to, either way.
That's kind of small, I mean. So I brought my Missionaries of Charity cross from when I was in Calcutta, India. And that means a lot to me because when I was there, I wasn't just working with the Missionaries of Charity. It was, I understood a lot more about God. The best I can say to you is if you're not sure if you believe in God, go to Calcutta. You will have no doubt, and you will have no doubt that God comes in many, many forms. But that cross is probably one of the most sentimental things that I own. It reminds me of the love of people and of God.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Stefan. Anyone else want to share? Yeah. Can you hand this back?
I just brought a picture of my 2 children. It's obvious why they're sacred to me.
When you say your children, you never have to add anything more to that one. That's pretty good. Thank you. That's pretty sacred to me, too. And harrowing. They say the holy always terrifies you, and children counts. Terrified of my kids. Any more before we?
I'd love to know about this rock.
Virginia said she'd like to know about this rock.
I brought that. If you hold it up, will you hold it up, Virginia? I had that rock for a long time, found on a beach in the Salish Sea on North Orcas Island. It's a heart, but it's got a big slash across it. So it sort of connects my whole sense of God is love, which I learned as a little 2-year-old. And that's pretty much sometimes all I believe is God is love. But there's a lot of pain and a lot of brokenheartedness in the world. And it's a natural item.
Amen.
It looks like there's this little sad face in there.
Anyone else before we stop? Liz.
I brought a rock from a beach on Iona. Yes, you went right to it.
I saw you put it down. I don't want to claim any kind of. You go to Buddhist hell if you say that kind of thing. So I don't want to go. Hey, thank you. This is we're learning some skills, and we're more important than that. We're kind of preparing as a community how to be in this room together. And so this stuff's going to help us as we get into the more explicit Christian contemplative practices. But I thought both because of the day and the technology, it's a good place to start. I want to close this with a prayer. Last week we did the Chinook Indian call and response prayer that I love so much. We'll probably mainly do that because I love it. But I want to do something else. And it's easy. I've shared this little song somewhere here at the church before, but I'm going to teach it to you, and occasionally we might do it together. So I'm going to sing. I'm going to take this off so I'm not blaring. I'll sing a little phrase, and you can copy me, okay? And then we'll do it a couple times, and we'll see. It's like camp. It's not like camp. Okay. I leave you there.
I leave you there.
Do not despair.
Do not despair.
Remain in a circle.
Remain in a circle.
And do not despair.
And do not despair.
I'm going to sing it once through. This is good to know. Good to have some things like this in your bones. And then I'll sing it again, and if you want to join in at any point, you can. I leave you there. Do not despair. Remain in a circle and do not despair. I leave you there. Do not despair. Remain in a circle and do not despair. Go in peace.